Hi, hello and welcome to Poppedia podcast. મારું નામ કુનાલ છે. હું યશ જોડે બેઠો છું. The guest for today's episode was Aaryaman Trivedi. Aaryaman Trivedi is a multi-talented force in India's music industry. From managing artists and tours to interviewing legends like A.R. Rahman and Afrojack, his work spans festivals, editorials and more. With a sharp ear for music and a holistic approach, Aaryaman brings a rare blend of insight and experience to the table. Hope you enjoy the episode.
I actually started my own company towards the end of, which is Asterix, yeah. Thanks, man. Me and my friends, I'm a college naj friends ata tamara loko jo, and they're both lawyers and they were both like corporate tech lawyers, and they were really involved in the Web3 space, not necessarily crypto, but more like blockchain backend bodu. And I was involved very heavily obviously in the music and live entertainment space. And we had an idea to kind of make ticketing structures more efficient, not necessarily more beneficial. We just thought efficiency main hamaru focus ho jaye. So we worked with a couple of interesting partners, Nvidia, pachi Google Startup Labs, and we got an interesting grant from some investors, and we made Asterix as a solution for not just ticketing but also for like just how artists and organizers and promoters can have like a one-stop solution for live events. So they are Asterix karibu.
That's crazy. So you are still working or you have left Asterix?
I left Asterix about, actually very recently, like 3 months ago. 3 months ago, I was kind of going in a different direction and I wanted to go back into the management and booking space. So I left Asterix and got a job at Pagalana.
But when you're working so creatively, like તમારું જે પહેલા જે કામ હતું એટલું બધું creatively જો પેલું હોય, and now you're working at Pagalana, does that switch like disturb you or is it more fun? Like what?
That's a good question because it was actually the other way around. I started my career in music in the more business space. Like my first job was as an artist manager. I was working at this company called Third Culture Entertainment, and I used to manage artists like Kayan, J-Babe, who's the lead singer of the F-16s, Ranj Clifford, Adi, Nato, a bunch of these artists in and around Bombay. And that was great because Anati Bo Shikhonu Madumane, like very ground skills about financing, about understanding tech, sound setup, touring, just marketing for music, things like contracts, artists are contracts here to negotiate karanu. Everything. It was a very all-rounded approach. So I started with that, and then I took a bit of a deviation when I went into Rolling Stone. Can try karu. My company actually shut down. Third Culture shut down as a company, which is very unfortunate. But then I was like, oh, ek opportunity malu je kek nahu kara mate. So I thought, I'll give Rolling Stone a try. I always dreamt about working at a magazine like Rolling Stone because it was considered, at that time, it was considered a really big deal. And I joined Rolling Stone not as a journalist. I was actually handling their events, their social media, their content side of things. And પછી હું ધીમે ધીમે journalism માં enter થયો.
The thing also which quite amuses me because I love reading pieces. I still love reading movie pieces.
That's great because not a lot of people read anymore.
That's what I was coming to. Okay, what do you think are the like the end times very near where people have just stopped reading interviews, reading their like critique, no opinion in the piece? Like, because I love Rahul Desai, I love Ishita Singh Gupta, Uday Bhatt and all these people. I love reading their essays. Absolutely. I love reading I read your Meri Jaan Pehle Naach essay for Yashra. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And once we were talking, both of us, we were talking with Rahul Desai, and he had just posted an essay on Succession. એટલે મેં એમને એવું કીધું કે મેં સક્સેશન જોયું હતું બટ તમારો એસે વાંચ્યો ને એના પછી સક્સેશન ઇટ બીકેમ મચ મોર બેટર ઇન માય માઇન્ડ એન્ડ હી વાઝ લાઈક ધેટ્સ વોટ માય જોબ એસેન્શિયલી ઇઝ એન્ડ ધેટ્સ વોટ હેપન્ડ વિથ મેરી જાન પહેલે નાચ એઝ વેલ.
I love that, man. Thank you so much. I was very proud of that review. એટલે મારું શું હતું કામ mainly Rolling Stone માં I started off just writing reviews of albums and singles because I don't have a background in journalism. I didn't study journalism. I just enjoyed writing. એટલે મને બહુ શોખ હતું. એટલે I wanted to bring back the culture of criticism. કારણ કે music industry માં મારું એવું માનવામાં હતું કે there wasn't any critical writing or criticism of pieces of work. Not to put any writer or any organization down, મને બહુ એવું લાગતું હતું કે not everything is necessarily a 4 out of 5 stars or a 5 out of 5 stars. Not everything can be the best piece of sonic work you've ever heard. I think as a authority like a magazine like Rolling Stone India, if you put certain standards to your own writing, then it just makes the whole industry try to work a bit harder to improve. It like I wanted to be a not harsh as such, but a little bit more critical. I've gotten into my fair share of issues by doing that, but I don't know. My whole approach was, it's beneficial in the long run to have a bit of cultural standard for writing, and I think writing critical pieces of film, entertainment in general, it's a lost art. Emapan, it's not just ki you're criticizing something. There is something to be said about noticing a piece of work for all aspects rather than just the final output.
Makes sense.
Whenever you go about reviewing, say an album or a single, what's your standard procedure there? How many times do you listen to it? Do you talk to people about it before you write it? What is the standard?
Yeah, that's a great question.
progression?
I hate people who, it's very normal to have a first gut reaction to a certain piece of work, and that is value to that. For example, the make movie Mati Nikro, and the feeling that you have after watching the movie is it's not to be dismissed. That is your immediate reaction to a piece of art, and I value that a lot. But if you're publishing something, that means that other people are going to, they're going to respond to your piece of writing and then make their own value judgment for the art accordingly. There's a bit of responsibility, Emma. So Maru so hatu ke I would try to listen. Maru kaam hatu ke I would listen to albums and singles sometimes, but mostly albums at Rolling Stone India. So when you listen to an album, first of all, not a lot of people listen to albums front to end entirely anymore, but I would do that multiple times, and I would also try to listen to it in different through different mediums. Like for example, headphones mic vakat sambadavanu, listen to it in the car, listen to it in like a home studio or whatever, so that you can, because a lot of effort goes into the mix and master of certain songs and the production. So they try, the engineers try to create that sonic environment. So I would at least try to listen to it twice or thrice, and then I would try to understand the context. Like for example, with Yashraj's EP, he wanted to throw it back to the old 1980s, 1970s era of Bombay discotheques and old club culture in Bombay, which I did not honestly have a big awareness about. Mane jaine thoda research karu padi ke what are these studios that people would go to? Okay, what are these trends that they would wear in terms of fashion, in terms of where would they go to party? And badhu jana pachi you get a more richer appreciation of this man has put a lot of effort into coming up with this album, and then you would try to piece together ways in which you can try to understand and put yourself in the position of the artist. I had a different process for everything, but that was an interesting approach I had for that one.
It's also like, did you have to listen to like R.D. Burman and S.D. Burman કે તમે સાંભળેલું હતું એ પહેલેથી? Are you into Bollywood music?
My parents वो किशोर कुमार સાંભળતા હતા, R.D. Burman સાંભળતા હતા. I think somewhere થોડું inbuilt હતું, but it was I did try to go back to some of the inspirations to try and be like, and clearly કારણ કે I don't believe every piece of music or art is necessarily unique in some capacity. There is inspiration to be drawn from a lot of sources. And there is value in going back to be like, maybe these horn sections came from this piece, or maybe this, this hi-hat piece came from something else. To go back to those older songs is always beneficial.
Sense. And also your writing style heavily depends upon like tamaru je writing style and it's very journalistic in its like nature. Even while reading this Yashraj piece, I thought. But the thing with when writers like Rahul Desai or writers like Jean Didion or someone will like put their essay, it's like they are not just talking about the art that they consumed, they are talking about themselves ke hu aa position madi. That's also something that we find but very little. So I was also going to like ask you about, have you ever thought about starting your personal blog or something like that, where you just talk, where you just write about what that piece of music or that piece of art did to you while you were listening to it and something like that?
I really have considered it, and when I was at Asterix, I tried doing that in a video format. But I'm in the process of trying to compile a lot of the works that I could not publish in Rolling Stone India, and then also start writing new things. But I really like what you said about writers and journalists approaching it from a first-person POV, because I don't know if you guys are familiar with this writer called Hunter S. Thompson. I love Hunter S. Thompson. When I watched when I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and then watched the movie, I was very young. I was in college when I first saw it, and it fucking blew my mind, right? And Hunter S. Thompson was a writer for Rolling Stone magazine in America, and what I loved about his approach was he kind of shifted quote-unquote journalism entertainment journalism on its head because he invented gonzo journalism, and he would write as if he was narrating his own experience through a certain process, right? And I thought that was the coolest thing ever, right? I was like, I'm so tired of people assuming that you enter an experience like a music festival or a concert and even an album when you're listening to it, and it's very difficult to put yourself away from that experience. I think there is value in being like, yeah, I was going for a walk when I was listening to it. Kyun ghare eklo baitho do, and I was, maybe I was having a bad day, and this song or this piece of album, it really helped me feel a little better. Maybe you were partying with your friends and you just wanted to bump it and have a great time. There is value to, approaching that in a first-person POV. So I tried to base a lot of my writing kind of in that approach, not obviously in the same capacity that Hunter S. Thompson can, but in my own, I guess, way.
Essentially, what makes a great piece is also how you are living your life.
Yeah, true.
That's what makes it, because this I was reading this new Tarantino book, his memoirs on the films that is, and he's talked about Pauline Kael, and an interviewer asked Pauline Kael, when are you going to write your memoir?
Yeah.
And she's like, I already have, just read my reviews from 60 to right now. I have said everything about my life in those reviews, so I don't have to make a memoir out of it.
And the same can be said about interviews as well. Like, I after, like, I did reviews, and then I used to interview a lot of artists as well, and those were really fun because you get to ask questions that you normally wouldn't have the opportunity to. Like, for example, once I was assigned to interview Lucky Ali, and Lucky Ali, I love him, and I was so nervous. Jata pehla कि उनसे पूछूं हमने कि what can I ask him that nobody has asked him before. And I remember I was in the studio that he works with is right opposite our office at Rolling Stone India in Bombay. Anu go to tyan etlu, like, his aura is so, he's like Gandalf. He's like this old, he's intimidating, bro. Like, you could look at him and be like, either this guy wants to, like, murder me, or he wants to give me the best grandpa advice I've ever heard. And so I was very nervous, and I don't normally get nervous before interviews, but for him I was like, fuck, bro, like, so puchu amne, and then obviously his way of answering questions is very to the point, and I'm sure you guys know, like, as an interviewer, you like people who can ramble on, so your job becomes a little easier, right? But with Lucky Ali, he'd be like, this is the question, this is the answer, move on, so ye thodu agru hatu. But you learn from that. You learn that, like, not everyone, when you're interviewing a lot of people, not everyone has the same approach to giving answers, and you have to kind of pivot, and you have to be able to mold your questions. Yeah, absolutely.
What me and Yash have learned over the years is basically when because we have had several episodes where the guest was not a speaker, as to say, he'll speak on very point, but then so when you really start to listen, what happens is you don't get awkwarded out by the silences that's happening between. So we have had episodes where each of us we have 4 people and all of them are silent, and we are still very happy with how the interview is going. We are like, it's like this silence is also something.
No, 100%, bro. Like, you have to be at ease, and I think there is value in also not over talking. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, I don't know if you guys, there's this artist called Marc Rebier. He's an American French improv artist, not improv as such, but he does live looping. He does like comedy performances. So he would go on stage and he would strip down almost naked and then just do a 20-minute song about a kid having his 18th birthday and he wants to have a blowjob for the first time. Like something like that. So very, very like one of those people, right? Very out there, very he enjoys the kind of performances he does. And you would assume someone this charismatic and this fun, emnu off-screen persona પણ એવું જ હોય. You would assume that as an interview. So એક વખતે ગોવા આવ્યો હતો, and I got assigned to interview him, and I'm like a big fan. I was like, oh, આની જોડે મસ્તી મજાક કરીશ, it'll be really fun. But he was completely unlike his stage presence. Like, he was very, like, again, very shant, ekdam, he would take his time with his answers. He would think before answering. And so I was taken aback. I was like, oh, man to lagyu kya aa bhai to ekdam, energy thi aavse and badhu. But then, you realize that it's better to let them take their time and formulate maybe a more appropriate answer rather than, you don't need to keep putting in a word just to fill in silences.
You don't have to prod them. Like, that's the worst thing you could do with someone when they try to talk. Yeah.
But, can you talk about interviewing Rahman? I mean, like, yeah, Rahman is like God to me. Like,
Yeah.
favorite musician, favorite composer.
It came out of nowhere, bro, because I was actually, it was a Friday, and I was getting done with work. And मैं बदू काम laptop बंद करी ना, I was ready to chill, you know, be back home, and then I got a call from my editor saying, hey, I need you to interview A.R. Rahman. मैं कहूँ, oh shit, let's fucking go, right? But I didn't know it whether there was no brief given. She was like, my editor was like, the PR representative for A.R. Rahman's team will get in touch with you, and they will explain everything. I was like, okay. And ये वक्ते elections चलता था. So the PR woman said very clearly कि, you know, this is the brief. Do not mention anything about politics. Do not mention anything about the election. I was like, I didn't plan to. And the brief was actually not even about his music. The brief was in a very small village in near Assam, very, very small rural village. There's a practice of head hunting, wherein they would cut off the heads of rival tribes, and they would hang the heads on their amna gharni am agalaj. It's a very old primitive tradition. But UNESCO and Evabo heritage organizations, they are trying to, in some way, preserve the culture but get rid of the head hunting aspect of it. So the kids who are from these families, they are impoverished. Emni paase education nathi. So A.R. Rahman created this institute to try and get young kids from this tribe to get into singing, to get into like orchestra and string instruments. So he made a whole documentary covering this. એનું નામ હું ભૂલી ગયો પણ એવું કંઈક હેડ હન્ટર્સ ઓફ મેઘાલય કે એવું કંઈક હતું, હું તમને મોકલું. And the interview was about that documentary. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I wanted to like be face to face with, even if it's on video or anything. I didn't get to do that. It was more of a audio conversation. But he was less intimidating than Lucky Ali. You know what I mean? Very, very sweet. Very he's PR trained very well, so he knows what to say. Yeah, and just listening to his voice was surreal, man. It was very fun opportunity. Yeah.
But that's such a good niche to be into, because me and Yash, we also make documentaries under the banner of Poppedia, right? We document concerts and the events that are happening. And now this is something that you can't समझा ही ना सको कि why we do this. It's just so much fun being around those artists and just record them and put out the visuals that you have recorded and just make something out of it. And such a good niche to work on too. So we often
and like I feel like I like just philosophically I believe that your job it can be just something that you do, you know, just to make money, and that's okay. It's totally okay. You know, if whatever you do to make money is your hustle, and that's what you do. But what you do to, you know, to find joy or to find, you know, purpose, those are things that, you know, even if it's hanging out with your friends and making documentaries or interviewing people or whatever it is that you think you can do somewhat consistently. I believe that if you take too many breaks in between creative processes, you kind of lose that exercise mindset. And also, if you can learn how to make money doing that, even better. You know, even better. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the culture has been forced into something so bad that everybody wants to make an identity out of them. Like, it's so bad currently. I saw Instagram पर जाने कोई तो एक psychologist है, and he's making reels, and itli mast reel ne. So he's talking about there's a great partition in philosophers from Camus to Sartre to Badanu. Okay, there are some people who are talking about doing something, and there are some people who are talking about being something. Okay? You have to be something, you have to be. And then there comes a man in the 20th century, the greatest philosopher of me, Frank Sinatra. He says, "Doobie, doobie, doobie."
Yeah. No, bro, it's so wild. Can't get atyare. I've noticed there's a huge trend in people contentifying their either like, so for example, you have your passions and then you have your hobbies and then you have things you do to make money, right? I think for better or worse, एक ત્રણે વસ્તુ આમ થોડું blend થાય છે, and I feel like it could be a bit dangerous કારણ કે I have a lot of hobbies that I know will never make me money, will never be something I even necessarily share with everyone, but I just do them because મને મજા આવે. You know, like I play a lot of like board games, video games, things like, and I enjoy that because it's something I can have fun with my friends doing. But I feel like a lot of, especially younger kids, they see these avenues as a way to create content around it, which is, it's not necessarily the worst thing, but I think the approach should be about building a community rather than trying to become famous or make money. You know
it's
what I
also
mean?
bad for you. If you are doing it, it's also bad for you and your
મજા
hobby.
જતું રહે.
Yeah,
You know
it
what I mean?
separates the fun out of it. And
મને
that,
એટલા બંધો છે એમને પિકલ બોલ રમવાનું બહુ ગમે છે. હું તો નથી રમતો બટ એમને બહુ શોખ છે. And I'm like, bro, that's great, but why do you need to make a bloody reel each time you swing your racket? You know what I mean? Like, just play. Just have fun with it.
it like પછી મજા તૂટી જાય એ વસ્તુની.
It's also like the entire content thing is trying to get as much work out of your rest time.
Yeah.
You know, as much work out of your fun time. Or you're having fun, let's make content
Let's make
about it.
content about it.
What the fuck do you mean? Just have fun, fucker.
We never run popular like that. We have never like tried to incorporate all those stuff with this. કેમકે એ પછી મજા બગાડ દે. We start thinking about કે where's the hook, where's the reel. અમે reel મૂકતા જ નથી. અમને એટલા બધા લોકોએ કીધું કે you have done so many things આની reel કાપી મૂકે અમે મૂકતા જ નથી.
Nah, dog.
I feel like editors have like video editors specifically are the most sought after profession right now in my opinion. One, obviously because of real culture in general, but also like hook, pachi, outro, you know, whatever, like you need a yeah bro, and like I mean that's great, like that's fine. There is skill to that, there is talent to that, but I don't think everything needs to necessarily be compartmentalized into this formulaic kind of approach.
I also think most of the people do not get why interviews are so important. Like personally for me, there's this channel on YouTube called Gujarati Sahitya Academy, and they have these interviews with like poets from 60s and 70s, and there's nothing to it. They're just speaking about why they do poetry, how they met some other famous poets that they were in the college, and it's so much fun to watch. હું એ જોઈ લઉં ને એટલે મારે 7-8 કલાક I'm on a high કે ભાઈ મને આ લોકોને જોવા મળ્યા તો જે લોકોએ એટલે so that's what interviews are for me essentially. કે when I am recording or shooting something I feel કે હું એ રીતે જ જોતો કે આજે 10 વર્ષ પછી બી આપણે જ્યારે જોઈશું તો આપણને એવું થવું જોઈએ કે ભાઈ આપણે અહીંયા બેસીને આ વાતો કરી હતી. That's what this is basically.
I love it, bro. And like I remember like I'm the kind of person who કંઈક movie જોઉં કે હું કંઈક TV show જોઉં, especially if it's like I really like superheroes and shit like that. Like even if it's science fiction or whatever, after I watch a movie, money immediately and breakdown journey bogame, you know, like behind the scenes or interviews, you know. So and like I don't know if that's healthy or not, but I love seeing a side of a actor or a musician off the screen. You know, like you have a perception of someone on screen, and that's in some way tailored to something. You know, like if I'm looking at Robert Downey Jr. as, you know, a leading actor, he is being portrayed to me as this. But off the screen, he might be portrayed as something completely different. And it's only when you have interviews, or when you have slightly more informal conversations, can you find aspects of your favorite celebrities or favorite artists that you normally wouldn't. So I really value the interview format.
Especially in a country and a space like where I have grown up. મને યાદ છે હું મોટો થતો હતો ત્યારે હવે તો એનું કપિલ શર્મા શોનું રેલિવન્સ એટલું નથી રહ્યું, but while I was growing up just watching those people come on the show and talk about their lives, it's because એ હદ સુધી we have romanticized the idea of them working in films, them singing songs. એટલું થઈ ગયું કે it's just કે મને બધું કહો, મને દેખાડો what are you doing, મને દેખાડો where.
I don't know if you guys have there's this guy called Andrew Callahan, Channel 5 News. He's my favorite journalist in the world right now. And I think his approach to journalism, ekdam Hunter S. Thompson the opposite se, where his is more like I will be so extremely a fly on the wall. You know, okay, I will not bother to involve myself in any way whatsoever. I am just there as a entity, and baki badu conversation mari ajubaju chale. So I really love. I tried doing a lot of vox pop kind of formats when I was at Rolling Stone, and I realized I could not do it. I really enjoy putting myself into certain situations. But one of my really close friends, Veer Shetty, he would work for a lot of these sneaker companies like Main Street and and he kind of perfected that approach to vox pop content, because I think the trick is to not say anything, not do anything. You are just there, hand someone a mic, and if you hand someone a mic, they will not shut up. You know, in a good way or bad way, but it's content. You know.
I was gonna say that you certainly do have a lot of fun breaking the escapism idea. Like you also mentioned that whenever you watch a movie, or the first grunt-based reaction on it, like the first like how you feel, is not something that you put that much weight into. Same way you said that I have a habit of watching breakdowns or interviews. So when I'm leading to that, is that why you went into the entertainment management industry?
Is that why I went into entertainment? No.
Okay. Why did you go into entertainment?
Because I studied political science.
Bro.
Yeah.
I actually, I was working at Compass Box, and because it was a studio obviously you need people present in the studio for work to happen. At the pandemic, all work stopped. And my boss at that time was kind of considering ways to either pivot or either consider shutting down the studio altogether. And ત્યારે મન બહુ કંટાળો આવતો હતો અમદાવાદમાં મેં કીધું I want to get the fuck out of here, you know. So luckily one of my friends, he was working at Third Culture Entertainment as a manager, and they had just signed this artist called Kayan, and I was a big fan of her. She had this duo called Nothing Anonymous. They were like an live electro duo, and there was this guy Nirmit Shah, he was a really great pianist. So he would do like live electronic piano, and then she would sing on top of that. I really liked. This was 2020 or 2019, like late 2019, late 2019, early 2020. And they signed Kayan, and I was like, oh, मैं तो randomly and पूछूं कि this is great. Do you have any vacancies? They're like, yeah, we actually fired 2 people. Can के COVID ना ले दे. Do you want to give an interview? मैं कहूँ yeah, 100%. तो मैं interview आप ही हुआ, and my boss really liked it, but the pay was pathetic. But I was like, fuck it, like, can try karo. Yeah, so I packed my bags, and in the middle of the pandemic, November 2020, I left and I moved to Bombay. And I just knew nothing about management. I knew nothing about label operations, and I was like, I just like the kind of artists they're working with. I like the association. And I try karis. And yeah, dude, they made my first task. Like literally my first week, my boss said that try and book a 10-show tour. Okay. For an artist that was not that big. Like J-Babe at the time was my first artist. He was like not that big. Like I think his monthly listenership was like maybe like 2,000, 2,500 people. So I was like, man to show book karta nathi aur tu tour kevi book karu. And he was like, figure it out. So I was like, oh, okay. So I asked, my colleagues, I cold call promoters. And Indiana promoters, they're fucking assholes, they will not, if they don't know you, if they don't have that rapport, they'll lowball you, and they'll leave you hanging for weeks. And you have, so like as a manager, you have to kind of structure a tour based on scheduling, and routing is a big deal. Like for example, Delhi thi Northeast karu hai, so you can't do a show in Pune in the middle. Just flights become expensive. There are a lot of things you have to consider. And so I had to learn all of that by virtue of picking up the call 300 times, and out of that maybe 20 will pick up, and maybe 10 will actually take it forward, So yeah, man, it's just it was a lot of hustling in the beginning, and pachi you learn and then you figure it out. Yeah.
So are you friends with the musicians that you interviewed? For example, Yash Raj or Char Diwari or Danji. Are you friends with them?
Yeah. I've known them even before I started interviewing them. Most of them. Some of the bigger artists, like I'm not friends with. Like Lucky Ali and me don't smoke cigarettes on occasion.
Are you friends with Hanuman Kind?
I am. So when I was at Third Culture, हमारा एक label था Export Quality Records, and we had signed this band called Tilapes, and Hanuman Kind was the lead singer of Tilapes, and not a lot of people know that it's a jazz ensemble with a hip hop frontman. Crazy music, like really cool. It's like funk jazz. It's great, dude. I really recommend it. So we had known Suraj, Hanuman Kind, and Amrit, their bassist, for years. And then I interviewed Hanuman Kind a year before Big Dogs came out. And unfortunately, Rolling Stone India never released that video. So I'm thinking, I'm going to release it, so it'll be fun. Yeah.
So do you get scared when you don't like some of their work and I want to review this, but I don't like this album? So can you do that?
You mean like people that I know?
Yeah. If like Yash Raj ek paadu
people that
ke Danji ek release kari and you are like, I don't fuck with it. Can you write then an honest essay about it?
It's not always easy, but I have done that. I think there are 2 ways to do it. One way is if you just put out, like if you publish a piece, maybe criticizing an artist. I don't know if I should say, fuck it. There's this artist called Rashmeet Kaur. She's a Punjabi singer. She's been in the industry. We've known her. I wouldn't say she's a friend, but we've known each other and whatever. અને મેં her album came out and I don't know, I was in a mood અને મેં બહુ critically એમને
What sort of music was this?
it was like a Punjabi hip hop fusion album, and the album, so it was a 12-track album. Each song had a feature. So my criticism was her singing is excellent, but the overwhelming amount of features kind of reduces the value of her output. My tagline was too many cooks spoil the broth. એટલે તમે બહુ વધારે પડતા લોકો એક સાથે એક પ્રોજેક્ટ પર collaborate કરો, it tends to sizzle down the value of the main artist. Like she had Seedhe Maut on it. She had Arivu. Arivu is a very big South Indian artist. Rebel. A lot of really good artists. But my point was, it takes away from the main, point of the album. And album nu na much Kaur tu, like from Rashmeet Kaur. So you would assume that the main message would be Rashmeet, as a singer. And I put out this really like harsh article, and she did not like that at all. So her team would call us and be like, "Ah, tame kaadi muko," and we were like, "We don't do that. Like, we don't remove, So it happens, bro. Like, I've gotten into shit with, like, I know the Seedhe Maut guys. Emnu pan thodu mein criticism karyu.
So their team also called. Kya wo nahi kya? That's crazy.
They were having a beef with this artist called SOS. Yeah. So I had taken up the kind of onus to review. No, I did like it, but I had to, like, the thing is, when you're working on a project such as a hip hop beef, as a journalist, you kind of have to cover both sides. You have to critically, like, at least what I wanted to do is I wanted to give a very critical response of both aspects. Like, how well of a response is SOS giving compared to Seedhe Maut? What are the references that Seedhe Maut is making to SOS? You have to do your homework to make sure you're giving each side their due credit. તો એ મેં કર્યું અને મેં અમુક વસ્તુ સીધે મોત વાળા ના ગમ્યું, અમુક વસ્તુ SOS વાળા ના ગમ્યું. So, and that tends to happen, bro. But I think you need people in the industry who are willing to do this kind of things, કારણ કે like, I know Seedhe Maut fans and DHH fans in general, Desi hip hop na fans, they're very passionate. Loyalist, passionate. At sometimes they're very extreme, so as a publication or as any authority on music, you have to be able to kind of not stoke the flames. You can't just give the fan service to one side and ignore the other, So ये थोड़ा आम balance रखू पड़े. Thank you guys for having me. This was really fun. I wish you guys the best. I mean, you guys have a solid team. Keep doing cool shit. Yeah, let me know if I can help out in any way. Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, guys.
But thank you for joining in. It was बहुत मजा आई, खरेखर बहुत मजा आई. We'll definitely do it again whenever we find the time in some other city.
It's some other city probably, yeah.
Yeah, but no, thank you for watching.
Yes.